The best of the Jewish world. RadioHidabroot.com.
Good evening and welcome to this Wednesday night's show of Teens in Risk, Everyone Else at Risk show. This is your host, Dov Rabinowitz, and tonight we have a special guest, Dr. Doueck, who's come in to talk and tell us about his father-in-law, Mr. Charlie-Serouya, who's tonight, it's his 7th yortzeit. And really the show is dedicated to Mr. Serouya and to people like Mr. Serouya. Those people out there who are the visionaries, the leaders, the ones who help our communities to grow. Now, we have spoken in the past about things that are necessary in communities to be able to help them to grow. But tonight we're going to give some principles that Mr. Serouya lived by. Those principles that helped build communities and yeshivas and shuls, and not just buildings, but people's lives. That's what we're going to talk about today. And the theme of tonight's show is very simple. You can't choose what life throws at you, but you can choose how to deal with it. Now, I was asked to give another brief overview of who I am again, just for the sake of this show. And as you know, I've said in the past, I'm Dov Rabinowitz. I ran an organization in England called the Clubhouse, and I now, which was dealing with teens at risk and parents and schools and rabbonim, and it was helping the community's children to grow. And right now I'm working with the great leaders like Rabbi Ronnie Greenwald and Rabbi Zachariah Wallerstein in Arnava and Benoschaya, who are actually, I just wanted to put in here, they're being honored at a tribute dinner on June 18th alongside Rabbi Y.Y. Rubenstein, Mrs. Lisa Elephant, Judy Bodner, Tzipora Ginsburg, Chaim Tovia Hansen, Rabbi Edgar Gluck. All these people are changing the face of women's education, inspiring people to grow, empowering them to be better mothers, daughters, and grandmothers. And we hope that, please God, that you should be able to help us by donating money to Arnava through this dinner if you can't come. Okay. So really that leads me on to the rest of the show, because these are the kind of people who are leaders. And that's what Mr. Charlie-Serouya was. He was a leader. And in a minute we're going to hear from Mr. Doueck, Dr. Doueck, Dr. Doueck, about his father-in-law, because I believe that we can learn so much from his life, and we can take that and input that into our lives and make other people's lives better and make other people feel special. Before we do that, I want to just say one quick Dvar Torah, which helps us to understand what the life of Mr. Charlie-Serouya was, what his life meant. And we see in Parshas Vayera, in Pasuk Beis, Perek Yud Ches, it says, Vayisa Einov, and Avram lifted up his eyes. Vayar, and he saw. What are we talking about? He saw the angels coming towards him in the desert. The angels, of course, were coming to do different things. One was coming to tell Sarah that she was going to have a child. One was coming to destroy Sodom. And each one had a different reason for coming. And then, a bit further on, it says, Vayar, and Avram saw, Vayorotz, and he ran. So the obvious question is, why does it say twice, Vayar? First, when he saw them, and then he saw them again and he ran. And the idea is as follows, is that a person can see things that are happening within a community. They can see, the kids are on the street, look at the divorces, look at all the bad that's happening. And he sits there and moans and grumbles. Grumble was an English word. Grumble means moan. They sit there and moan and grumble, and they're just criticizing everything that's going on, and really they don't do much. All they do is sit there and moan. And then you have the other person, who's the second Vayar. They see, hold on a second, what can I do to change this situation? Vayorotz, and they ran, and they run to the situation, and they go and try and do whatever they can in order to be able to help that situation. And they raise money, and they give their time voluntarily, and they do whatever they can. And really, if I was to put in just one small package, everything that I've read about Mr. Charlie-Serouya, I would say this was him. He didn't just see what was going on. He went and he saw again, he looked again. What can I do to help those people? And then he ran. He used his koiches. And we're going to hear some of those things that he did and some of the principles that he lived by. And we're calling them the 10 principles, just like the 10 trials of Avraham Avinu. We're going to call them the 10 principles of Mr. Charlie-Serouya. And Dr. Doueck is going to tell us that, and go over those in a few minutes. But I think that it's easy for people to sit there and moan. And I'll tell you, there are many people who go through tzoros in life. They go through trials and tribulations. And there's two choices that everybody has bechira, choice. There's two choices that they can do. Either A, they can sit there and moan and groan and say, look what Hashem did to me, look what's happening to me, look at all the bad things that are happening to me. Or they can say, hold on a second, God does not give me something that I cannot cope with. If he gave it to me, he must have given me the tools to be able to cope with that. And therefore, I'm going to find a way out of this. I'm going to grow from this. And in truth, I can tell you from personal experience that every time you have a negative thing happen to you, after you've overcome it, you become stronger. Now, in my time in the clubhouse, I remember about in 2001 when I started, I had some boys and girls who were helped because they wanted to be helped. We engaged with them, and they were empowered to go and make their lives better. And then we had some boys and girls who were the same 5 years later. In fact, some of those kids came back to me and said to me, we wish we would have listened. We wish we would have done what you suggested and what you advised. But they still didn't change after that. They still carried on their lives. And in fact, some of those kids today are still the way they were 10 years ago. But let's focus on those who listen to the good advice of those people who've been through things, who understand these things. Let's listen to the stories of, for instance, the life of Mr. Charlie-Serouya. What can we learn from these people? And, just one or two things before we go to Mr. Doueck. I mean, I'll just give an example of things that touched me, and it reminded me of my days in the clubhouse, is that Mr. Serouya used to go around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, picking up boys to go and for slichas. Now, I remember I have a good friend in Manchester called Pinchas David Brandeis, who wanted to help me, and he used to come fetch me every single morning at 6 o'clock in the morning for Shachris to make sure that I got up for Shachris and before I went to work. And I'm very thankful to him because I could see he was a very special friend. Not only that, he cared. And that's another thing that we want to learn from the life of Mr. Charlie-Serouya. He cared for people. No one should ever feel that they're alone. No one should ever feel that they're not special. And I want to tell you that when I came to live in America, I decided the way I'm going to pick my shul, where I'm going to daven, is I'm going to go to that shul with no one knowing about me, and I'm going to see if anybody talks to me. I heard that people don't talk to each other here in Brooklyn. So I decided that's the way I'm going to do it. So I went to 3 or 4 shuls, and no one spoke to me. I should have gone actually to the Syrian shul, because I hear they're very warm there. But I didn't go there because I'm Ashkenazi and I don't daven Nusach Svadi. But I went into the shuls, no one spoke to me. And then I went to the shul, actually, which people in England told me to go to, and I don't know why I didn't go there in the first place, but people told me to go there. And there was one very special man. His name is David Sandhaus. The second I walk in, do you want a place? Good Shabbos, Shalom Aleichem, how are you? And I felt like this is the way I'm going to daven. And slowly but surely, more and more people, the rabbi and more people came and said good Shabbos to me. And I felt this is where I'm going to belong. Everybody needs a place where they belong, to feel they belong. And Mr. Charlie-Serouya was one of those people who made sure that everybody belonged in his community. And I heard that today, in today's time, that in the Syrian community where they're praying in the shul there, that's how it is continuing today. And I've got to say, it must be partly because of Mr. Charlie-Serouya. It must be because people like Mr. Charlie-Serouya, who wants to go out there and make people feel wanted, make people feel that this is their place and this is where they belong. And you can have hardships. And, Mr. Serouya, from what I've read and understood from what Dr. Doueck gave me, he didn't have it easy. He had a child, which was when he was in the army, and he wasn't able to be by the bris, and he had to make shlichim as messengers to make sure that the bris was done properly for him, and he was on the telephone while the bris was made. This couldn't have been easy, And he came from an orphanage, there's many people out there who came from different kind of surroundings which weren't ideal, and they could say, look where I came from. How could I ever achieve anything? You see what bad happened to me? And never there are people out there who have had bad things happen to them. And they have good reason to sit down and lie down and do nothing the rest of their life. But you know what? There are people out there who say, no, I'm not going to take this lying down. I'm going to get up and make something. And their children and their grandchildren learn a very big lesson. And even though it's the 7th Yortzeit of Mr. Charlie-Serouya, there are people today, and this is 7 years ago, there are people today from Doris, 2 generations after Mr. Charlie-Serouya, who are still talking about Mr. Charlie-Serouya. They're still talking what it meant to them, what his life meant to them. And I always say that a person will always remain alive, even after their nifta, if their children and the people they touched continue their good work. And this is what tonight's all about. You can have tsaros, or you can have negative things happen to you in life, or you can have obstacles put in your way in life. It's how you deal with it. It's not about sitting and moaning. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to Dr. Doueck now, and let's go through one of the principles of Mr. Charlie-Serouya. Before we do that, if there's anybody out there whose lives was touched by Mr. Charlie-Serouya, I want you to call in on 718-683-5858, 718-683-5858. We want to hear how Mr. Charlie-Serouya's life touched your life. And we want to hear how what he meant to you, because this is his Yortzeit, and we really want to place as much time and emphasis on his life and also the principles that he had. Okay, Dr. Doueck, let's go through. First of all, hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Let's go through the first principle. I'll let you go through the principle.
Okay, so our first principle that my father-in-law Charlie-Serouya held was to take a genuine interest in others, to reach out and touch their lives. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One example was brought up by Isaac Mavorach. And this was a young man at the time that he wanted to go to shul, but he didn't want to go that badly. And what my father-in-law did was he gave him a phone call, and he didn't answer. Isaac Mavorach didn't answer the call, and it went onto his answering machine. And he continued to ignore my father-in-law's calls, Charlie-Serouya's calls, for 3 weeks. But every message that Charlie-Serouya left was always an encouraging message. It was never angry. And in the words of Isaac Mavorach, you are the most persistent man I have ever known. How many people in our community have you to thank for their spiritual lot in life? That is the way he took a genuine interest in others. He cared about them. He wasn't angry. He loved them. He wanted to help them. I first met my father-in-law on the bus going to work, and I had a cup of coffee in my hand, and he came over in his warm way, and he asked me, why are you starting your morning drinking coffee on the bus? Why don't you come and you'll learn in the morning with us? We do Chok Israel before we pray. Then we pray. You'll get on the bus. I'll give you coffee, whatever you want in the shul. You'll have breakfast, and then you'll get on the bus. So I mentioned this to a few people, and they told me, what? Some crazy man on the bus tells you to come to shul at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're going to listen to him? Well, the rest is reality here, and here I am. And I was very appreciative of that.
I think that, the lesson that we can take from there is always, to try and include people and try and bring people in. Sometimes, people make out as if they don't want to be brought in because they're thinking, what is this all about? What does this guy want from me? And sometimes we have to be open that people are trying to help us. And I think that that's a very important lesson that Mr. Charlie-Serouya did. He wanted to make sure that everybody was included and everybody knew what was on offer for the people of the community and also the wider community as well. And I think that went even further when he was, in the later years, he opened up a kollel and yeshiva, and he made sure that people had food. And I think that this gives us an understanding of the type of person that he was. But I think that the lesson this first lesson that we want to learn is reach out to people. Include them in your shul. include them in what's going on in socially in life. There are many people out there who feel very alone. They're sitting there every day on the bus or in their car, and they really are not included in anything.